There's nothing quite like an awesome beginning sequence that prepares you for the rest of the game. They can be long or short, made up of only cutscenes or gameplay, or hell, maybe there's a nice mix of the two. But either way, after the dust settles and the game opens up, you'll be ready for what lies ahead. Here are my top 5 video game introductions. I'm putting Super Metroid at number 5 because, well, it's Super Metroid. And while I admittedly hold more nostalgia for Prime 1's introduction, I like Super Metroid's more because it encapsulates everything I love about the series. Making your way through the dead zone of the space colony, you quickly discover your good pal Ridley. Escaping down to the planet with the baby Metroid in tow, you pursue him, only to find that you've got a lot of the planet to come through if you want to find him. Although how he managed to get that far underground is beyond me. Within these first few minutes, you've seen dead bodies and had an encounter with your arch rival, and it does a fantastic job of establishing the tone and getting you into the action quickly. It's accentuated further once you're down on the planet. Torrential rains hammer the ground and the wind gusts violently. Escaping the inclement weather, you find yourself in a network of tunnels. The only problem is, well, it's quiet. Little creatures stir and flutter away, and it makes for an eerie atmosphere. You slowly make your way further down into the depths and grab the morph ball when this happens. When you return up the elevator, the caves are alive with enemies and music. There's the realization early on that perhaps you're being watched, but you'll only be able to answer that question if you push on. From the outset, Super Metroid isolates and startles you, and it's these qualities that still set it apart from many titles. Pokémon is a wonderful franchise, filled with fantastic creatures and the journey you take with them. It's an adventure of grand proportions, and what better way to kick that quest off than with an awesome introduction. In particular, the second gen of Pokémon has what is still my favorite introduction in the series. Now, it starts out like any Pokémon game. You're a kid in a small town, destined for greater things. But it's not apparent right away. Professor Elm gives you a Pokémon, but it's to help get through the wilderness outside of town, because you're gonna need a partner if you're gonna successfully deliver a package to Mr. Pokémon. After making the trek past Cherry Grove, you succeed in delivering the goods only to meet Professor Oak. There, he gives you a Pokédex, a show of support towards our endeavors and the first sign of our future greatness. On the way home, you run into your rival for the first time, who stole a Pokémon from the professor. Talk about a disparity between him and the classic friend from your hometown of the other titles. This guy won't let anyone stand in his way, confronting you simply because he wants to make his newly stolen Pokémon fight. Right at the start, he feels like the antithesis to you. Rather than being told you're friends with some local kids, this dude makes it personal. And it provides a meaningful connection for you to forge throughout the rest of the game. Once you return to Elm, he's so shocked by your conversation with Professor Oak that he has no doubts in your ability, and he lets you keep the Pokemon you chose for the delivery job. He also encourages you to take on the Pokemon League Challenge, thinking that you have all the right qualities to succeed. This rounds out the initial arc wonderfully. You prove yourself and make connections, setting up your journey moving forward. While the first generation was similar in its setup, Gen 2 took it a step further, establishing a new region and your relationship to it. And it's just one reason why it keeps me coming back.
War. War never changes.
A great introduction to a game helps set up the world in a meaningful way, providing just enough context to get you going. And Fallout 3's introduction blends cutscenes and gameplay in such a way that, yet again, you'll have a clear understanding moving forward. The game's opening takes you through the initial stages of your character's life, starting from infancy all the way to adulthood. Along the way, you gain a better understanding of life inside the vaults, peaceful zones isolated from the dangers of the wasteland. In the process, we also get to set up our abilities for the rest of the game. And it's done in neat ways like the GOAT, a test full of silly questions designed to give kids an idea of what they could be when they grow up, even though they're stuck in a vault. Kinda depressing if you think about it for too long. Then your dad throws Vault 101 into chaos, abandoning its safety and you in the process. You then have no choice. You have to follow him out into the Badlands of Washington, D.C., leaving the security of home. As you exit this sanctuary, you're greeted with a brilliant flash of post-apocalyptic light, flooding your retinas and opening your mind to endless possibilities. After being cramped up in the vault, this wide view of D.C. and the surrounding landscape is a welcome sight. Suddenly, there's a whole world opened up to you, and despite its terrible scars, the change in scope is mesmerizing. The Legend of Zelda. Between its cutscenes and gameplay, there's nothing quite like its epic quests and how they begin. And out of all the introductory arcs that prepare you for the journey ahead and establish the game's tone, nothing quite tops Majora's Mask. I have a thing for moody colors and weighty atmospheres, and the intro for Majora has these in spades. A dissonant opening melody solemnly guides Link through the depths of the Lost Woods. Quietly trotting along, it's not long until the mood changes. Enter the Skull Kid, struggle, departure, despair, creepiness, and a touch of hope all rolled into one as you cross over into a dimension far removed from the comforts of home. What follows is a romp through Clocktown where Termina's danger grows readily apparent, the moon casting a shadow of hopelessness and discontent over the world. You begin to discover just how strange this realm is and find a way to recover something precious to you. The beginning hour or so of Majora's Mask captures the emotions that permeate through the game, portraying it through the characters you meet and the actions they take. By the time you've met with a happy mask salesman again, you'll have learned one of the series' most emotional melodies and gained your first mask. It then becomes a literal battle against time as you reach out to the 4 regions outside of town. While plenty of the other Zelda games have phenomenal introductions, just about nothing matches Majora's tone and style.
Well, what about Shepard?
The intro to Mass Effect is stunning. Starting with a memorable set of dialogue, it gives you all the background you need to know on Shepard. Better yet, it fits how you've set up your Shepard. You take ownership in this experience, and the game wants you to feel that right away. As the shot of the Earth dips away, the music swells to a heavy, electronic-laced crescendo. Text fades onto the screen as the beat continues to rise and add layers. They called it the greatest discovery in human history. The civilizations of the galaxy call it... Alright guys, here we go. The Earth disappears again as the light escapes behind the horizon line, and the music slowly cuts away before the Normandy brushes by the familiar sight of Jupiter's Great Red Spot. What continues from there is a grand mix of the recognizable and the unforeseen. One by one, the planets of our solar system are left behind as Shepard makes their way to the front of the Normandy. Then, at the fringes of the system, we approach this massive structure called a mass relay. The music rises again until... While the cutscene up until you're finally able to make some conversation decisions is fantastic, the introductory arc on Eden Prime helps to further solidify the game going forward. It's a tour de force of action and plot, introducing you to the game's mechanics and setting you up for the rest of what is an unbelievable title and series. Despite not talking about Mass Effect much before now, I have to say it's one of my favorite video game franchises. Memorable moments, dazzling locales, fantastic dialogue, and exotic aliens grace the far reaches of space. And while the setting of space was enough for me to pick up this game, it wasn't until this opening, these first 60 seconds or so, that I was completely and utterly hooked. And really, that's all I can ask for in a great intro.